Hi, welcome back to the Harpreet Singh Show, and you're watching Tania's Truth Talk. And boy, do we have a guest for you today. His name is Brian McConaghy. He is a former RCMP officer, forensic scientist, and weapons specialist. He is the founder of Ratnac, which is an organization that helps rescue children in Cambodia. So welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. I mean, you and I had met a while back. We were both guest speakers at a university, and you know, we've come in contact kind of indirectly through people that are abolitionists, such as we are.
Right.
And you know, the work that you're doing in Cambodia is just amazing. And I mean, you're a man of God, and you're a believer in Jesus Christ as well. And you know, I'd like to ask you, how did you get involved with these child trafficking issues, being that you were an RCMP officer and now you're working in Cambodia?
Originally, to be frank, I didn't want to get involved. I mean, it's horrendous stuff. It's emotionally devastating to confront what's being done to children in terms of sexual abuse internationally. But I had been running in my spare time a charity in Cambodia while being full-time in the RCMP.
Right.
And was happy to do hospitals and irrigation programs and all that kind of stuff. Didn't want to go near the child exploitation stuff until while I was working on the Willie Picton file, the pig farm outside of Vancouver.
Yes, quite a famous case.
The serial killings going on there. I was responsible for physical evidence in that and the remains of the girls and processing those. And it was while working that file that Vancouver City Police approached me and said, we've got a completely different file where a Canadian downtown Vancouver was assaulting, actually torturing prostituted women downtown, and videotaping his assaults. But as they reviewed, when they seized the videos, as they reviewed all these victims on the videotapes, they discovered that there were little Asian children mixed in amongst this. And so because I'd spent so much time in Cambodia working charity various projects, they said, can you take a look at these tapes and see what country these kids maybe are from? And I agreed. And after working many, many homicides, I kind of thought I'd seen it all. I had no anticipation of what I was about to see in terms of children that young being assaulted.
Now, I mean, as a former police officer working on, you know, the Picton file and stuff, I mean, you've seen bodies chopped up and you've seen the most horrific things in your decades in law enforcement, and now your evidence that you're coming across in Cambodia is what really rocked your boat. Completely. I mean, all the individuals that I'd been dealing with doing forensic science, they were dead. It was over. In this file, I was watching videotapes of 7, 8, 9-year-olds being sexually assaulted by a Canadian, and watching that was life-changing for me. And I figured, okay, I may not have the skills, but I've got to do something. I may not feel equipped, but I've got to do something. And so for me, I wanted to avoid an industry where 30,000 children were sold into this in Cambodia. And it really was a spiritual moment when God said, okay, I'm not asking you to deal with 30,000. You can walk away from that. I'm asking you to deal with these 7. So these are the 7 that are showing in the photograph right now of these children with their eyes covered. Okay.
So those are the first 7 that absolutely changed my life. And so I dedicated myself to trying to find them and work on that particular file.
Right.
And I ended up getting the GPS locations of where they were assaulted and the probable IDs within 72 hours of seeing the evidence tape, which was...
And now, how long had the police been working on this before you got your hands on this?
I'm actually not sure. Probably about a month or so, I think. Maybe 5 weeks, something like that.
And there's like multiple people working on this, and then you have it, and within a few hours you've located where this...
it was...
I personally would say that was the Lord.
Absolutely. I mean, this was not about good investigation skills. This was absolutely about God saying, see, if you step up and you do as you're told, I will provide you the answers. And my goodness, we had that file in no time. And so those girls are now very much like daughters to me. I know them. They're still in projects with us. And I have the privilege of having invested a good deal of my life into theirs to rebuild and restore them.
Now, you know, a lot of people hear, you know, oh, there's children being trafficked. I mean, it's just, people are almost becoming desensitized to this, right? you say that children were being sexually assaulted, but would you say that this is they're being sexually assaulted in a perversion type of way, or what?
It runs the gamut, but certainly the videos I've seen and what we're aware of from what the children tell us is there's a very high percentage of physical violence involved. That this is not, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not a psychologist in this, but from my experience, it is not primarily about sexual activity as it is about power and violence.
So this photo that I'm showing on the screen right now, this is a photo of young girls standing outside the brothel?
Yeah, what they're actually doing in the photograph, I'm not sure when the photograph was taken, but the district they're standing in is a brothel district that's run by criminal elements. It's run by the Vietnamese mafia, and the primary activity in that whole community is the buying and selling of lives, both children and young women.
What is the average age of entry for in these child brothels in Cambodia?
It's hard to put an average on it, but certainly it's not abnormal at all to start them at 5 and 6. So it's unusual in comparison with other sex industries such as Thailand, Philippines, or even Canada for that matter. So they start them very early in Cambodia.
So what is the demographic of the people that are coming to purchase these children? Because I mean, it is just, to me, it's completely demonic. It is disgusting. I don't even know how somebody can concoct something like that up in their head to be having sex with a 5-year-old girl.
Yeah, in horrendous circumstances. This is not an industry
Right.
that's dressed up like Bangkok or Manila, where there's neon lights and it's sort of dressed up to look attractive. This is raw violence in seedy, sweaty little cubicles that are never cleaned.
So you'd mentioned to me earlier that these children are not like they're actually, their arms and their legs are tied starfish, and these guys are coming in and they're raping these children. And you'd mentioned that if they don't, if they complain or not doing as they're told, that they're electrocuted and they're beat into submission.
Yeah, the kids, it's not abnormal for them to be tied down, and they can be beaten. Yeah, they're beaten into submission. I mean, the kids aren't going to submit to this because they like it. I mean, it's torture for them.
Of course.
And the demographic you were asking about in terms of who's actually doing this, it runs the gamut. In Cambodia, it's a post-genocide society that really has had the moral compass kicked right out of them.
Right.
So in terms of the value of human life, it just isn't there. So across the board, guys are using prostituted women. To a degree, there's the belief that their virility increases, or they can actually be cured of AIDS by having sex with a virgin. And in order to have a virgin, you need to go younger and younger and younger now because the older girls are used up. So there's that domestic industry that's huge.
Is this a faith or something, or is this a cult type of belief?
It's folklore. It's folklore. It's just what the rumors that go around.
That's just what it's a culture thing.
Yeah.
So where are a lot of these girls coming from? Are they kidnapped, or are the parents giving them up?
A high percentage of the girls are ethnic Vietnamese. They can be trafficked from ethnic Vietnamese communities within Cambodia or across the border from Vietnam. And so there's a traditional enmity between Vietnam and Cambodia in terms of their society. So Cambodians basically hate Vietnamese. So to destroy a little Vietnamese life in a brothel is a total freebie. Morally. There are many Cambodian kids sold into this as well. There's a lot of financial pragmatism goes into their sale. So it's just it's really where we end up if we don't have any sense of the value of human life.
That's
where children simply become a commodity. And the tragedy of this is that there's an international development sort of element to this where guys will come from all over the world because they know the children aren't protected there.
So how are these pedophiles finding out where to buy an airline ticket and go, and then find these seedy cubicles to be having sex with children?
The pedophiles,
you can't Google it. I mean, how do they do that?
Yeah, the pedophiles communicate very actively among themselves. There's chat rooms and whatever else as to where to go. I mean, you can go on the internet if you know where to go, and I obviously wouldn't recommend anybody doing this. But if you've got the right pedigree and they trust you, they will not only tell you the communities to go to, they'll tell you how to get there, the buildings to go to, which children perform which sex acts. I mean, it's very organized. So it really is, for me, it's an issue of intelligence, counterintelligence, where where there really is an enemy here that we're working with, not just a spiritual enemy, obviously, but guys who are absolutely out to do this and are out not to be discovered and are out to get in the way of international law enforcement and those who seek to help these children.
Right. So what is your work that you're doing in Cambodia now? Like, once you're finding these children that are being trafficked, what are you doing with them?
There's a very extensive program when a child such as this is rescued. Obviously, the psychological, physical issues are huge for them.
Right.
And so they go into a high security rehabilitation center that's in a secret location. The reason it's secret is because these children are no more than stolen product. It's no different from separating cocaine from a drug dealer. They are going to come after you for the product. So it's a secure location, and then within that location, that particular center can handle 60 children. With 61 staff, which gives you an idea of the issues we have to deal with them. Behaviorally, psychologically, nutritionally, medically, everything. So they go through medical intervention first, so we deal with many of their medical issues, and then we get into years of narrative and cognitive therapy, where they learn to talk through what's been done to them, and we give them a vocabulary so the first time they can actually explain what's been done, and there's a therapeutic process there. That in turn leads to eventual job skills training, so they've got alternatives, because they've never been educated, they've never been through school, they're a product, they're a slab of meat in that society. And so we give them opportunities to have job skills training, and they live, when they're older, in like a halfway house where they reintegrate back into society in a normalized way, which is the most difficult part, to normalize these kids as 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds start to move back into a society with some measure of normality and hope.
Okay, we're going to get more back into this after the commercial break. So tune in to Tania's Truth Talk on the Harpreet Singh Show after the commercial break.